Well, hello and welcome to Fuquay-Varina United Methodist Church. My name is Owen. I'm one of the pastors here, if we haven't had a chance to meet yet, and we're glad you're here. We know that life can get crazy, and sometimes we have to find time to worship during the week, and so we have crafted this worship opportunity just for you. We know, nothing's perfect, but whenever you're worshiping and wherever you're worshiping, we're glad that we can be here worshiping together. If you are with us for the first time or you'd like to let us know you're here, if you just got questions we can follow up with, we'd love for you to text us, send the word hello to the number that's right here at the bottom of your screen. We'd love to get back in touch with you as soon as we can to see how we can connect or help solve whatever it is that you've got for us. So don't hesitate to reach out. Also, if this is an opportunity that you regularly participate in and you'd like to partner with us in mission and ministry, we'd love to have that partnership with you as we serve our greater community here around Fuquay-Varina. You can go to our website, fvumc.org/give. And we'd love, again, any sort of support that you can offer will help us continue to do this and do it well. And so you can check that out while you're there. Anything that you need, hopefully, will be right there on our website. Particularly if you're looking for other worship opportunities, you'll be able to see those on our worship page. And again, we're just so glad you're here, and we hope that you find something meaningful, something you can hang your hat on this week as we participate in worship together. Well, hey, everybody, it's great to be with you today. I want to start with an image, right? If you'll go with me for a second to a park. Early on a Saturday morning, there's kids just running everywhere. It's like far too early to be out of the house. And so you got all these sleepy parents that are there with their kids. And in the back corner of this playground is one of those big swing sets, like, 6 or 8 swings. And kids are just going back and forth in all sorts of different patterns and rotations. And they're holding on to the front of their little, toddler swing, just a wind blowing through their hair, just having a good old time, parents sipping coffee. Now, I want to ask you a question about how that moment came to be, right? This is a pro level question. How do you push a kid in a swing? How do you push a kid in a swing? It's a trick question because the trick is you actually don't push a kid in a swing. You actually pull a kid in a swing, right? If you're going to really do it, you want to do it well, you want to do it right, you take your kid, you pull him back and back and back and back and back and back, and then you let him go, and whoosh, gravity, does the rest of the work. In physics land, we would say that you're entering some potential energy into the equation. You're going to pull him back, get all that potential energy. And then when you let them go, it all becomes kinetic energy, and they go from this state of rest, the state of potential, into all the work that's in front of them. And again, to stick with physics just for a second, all we have to do then, once they're going and gravity is doing most of that work, while we sip our coffee, is just add a little bit of Vx, into the equation, just enough to overcome the coefficient of friction, mu, as they, all the friction that gets caused as the wind is blowing through their hair. And that's all you do. Just sip and push, sip and push. But it doesn't take that much work because they're in rhythm. They're just going back and forth and back and forth. Our lives, I believe, are intended to be lived in this effortless sort of rhythm between rest, potential energy, and work, kinetic energy. Between resting and abiding in the presence and the Spirit of God, and then being sent out to go and do good work in our lives. This rhythm, I think, has existed since the very beginning. From the very first pages of the Bible, it says that God created the world in 7 days. God separates light and dark. We get sky and ground. We get land and water. We get creepity crawlies that creepity crawl. And we get fish that swim. We get birds that fly. On day 6, we get human. God creates humans on day 6. Happy birthday. On day 7, it says he rested. On day 7th, God rested. That word, he rested, in Hebrew is the word Shabbat, right? Or we would call it Sabbath. Now, we tend to think about our pattern of life in the same way that we see God's pattern. Work, 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 rest. But that's not actually our experience. That's God's experience, but it's not ours. Human came to be on day 6. On day 7, our first full day on the earth, what did we do? We rested. We Shabbated, right? We rested. We did nothing. We got a vacation day. The very first day we were set up, right? We didn't have to worry about where food was going to come from or how we were going to survive. God was providing all those things. We rested. It's almost like on that very first day, God just pulls us back. And then on the second day, whoosh, we began to work. And when we live our lives resting and working from rest, I think we can just kind of add a little bit of Vx into the equation, and our lives feel like they're in balance. They feel good and right. This hallowed day, right, that we've come to call the Sabbath day, this time of rest, it's a chance for us to rest and to remain in God. It was so important to our well-being, so important to our way of life, that God actually made it one of the 10 commandments. It's one of the big ones. That's how seriously God takes this idea of rest. It's a part of our life. Now, if you've been with us for the past few weeks, you know that we've been in a series called Life in Boxes, holding it all together. And you may have noticed that we have no box that we call Sabbath. We have no box that we call Sabbath. We do, however, have a box that we've been calling me time. It's been sitting over in the corner the whole time, getting closer and closer. I will tell you, none of the rest of my friends felt like it was a good idea to put a me time box up here, but they were eventually overcome by the force of my will, my belief that it needed to be up there, and they said, well, then you have to preach on it. And the closer and closer we've gotten to this box, the more and more I've wondered if maybe this is just my problem and not everybody else's. I told Chambliss, my wife, this week, I said, well, I mean, this week is real relevant to me, but I don't know how universal it is to everyone else. We've been talking about how when we compartmentalize our life into boxes, we try to put everything in its nice, tidy space. We do that to try and control the chaos of our lives so we can go and be one person in one place, then put that back on the shelf and go and be another person in another place. But when we do that, it actually creates more chaos in our life, because one of the things that we're doing is we're putting God in a box. Sometimes we've been calling it the church box. We put God in a box, and we've been saying that a boxed out God cannot transform a boxed in life. When we take God out of all these components in our life, disorder and chaos becomes a part of it. We've been talking about what it looks like for us to live an integrated life, a holistic life of discipleship, so that we can experience the goodness of the holistic salvation that Jesus came to offer us. And I think Sabbath without God, like if we take God out of the Sabbath box, it's not called Sabbath anymore because we're not resting with God. I think a box that we would have called Sabbath without Jesus in it it's called me time. Again, for me, here's what this looks like. Let's go back to our image for just a second. In this metaphor, we've got all these parents, their kids are like enjoying life, effortlessly swinging back and forth. And then you've got a parent at the end trying to push his kid. But instead of pulling his kid back and letting gravity do the work, this parent is just determined to do all the work himself. And so while the kid is hanging straight down, this parent just pushes with all of his might, as hard as he can. And that kid swings out a little bit and comes right back. The parent stops him. And pushes again, comes back and stops. Pushes again, comes back and stops. Pushes again, comes back and stops. Think about how much effort and energy that takes and how quickly that parent is going to become tired. I think when all of our lives get out of rhythm, and we're it's like we go to work, we head off into our lives, like whatever we're doing day in and day out, and we just feel like we just push and push and push and push, and it just wears us out. Like our pattern of work looks like that. We just work, and then we got to take a break, right? That's because we're trying to live a life that looks like the life that God is. We're trying to put ourselves in the place of God. Work, rest. It's not actually rest at that point in time. It's just a break. We spend all day, all week, pushing and pressing, burning the candle at both ends. And then we come home anxious and worried about all the things that we just left, at the office or wherever we were. We come up beat up, tired, and then there's like this just little silver lining of time that appears. And again, maybe this is just me. But when I come home like that and I'm just beat up, I'm tired, I'm worn out, and I get some time just to myself, I just want to relish in it. Like, I just want to enjoy it. I want to do only what I want to do. Like, I find myself saying things like, I deserve this time. I have earned it. And when I don't have any responsibilities, I just kind of zone out and crash. And I do whatever I can, just kind of numb or dull, whatever it is that I'm trying to escape. So, 6 episodes of binged television show on Netflix that moment where you're like trying to decide if you can watch one more episode before you have to get up and go to the potty. Like, is it worth getting up at this point in time? Or, it's like way too late at night and you're just sitting in front of your computer, just reading all the news that you want. No one's bothering you. You don't have to do it in between checking emails or whatever it is, or you're playing video games or whatnot. I don't know what you do, but like, I just end up staying up too late. I know this doesn't make any sense. Like, cognitively, I understand it. But when I find myself trapped in this like little me time space, it's like I want to enjoy every ounce of it that I can. And I know when I wake up tomorrow, I know what's waiting for me. It's all the anxiety. It's all the worry. It's all the stuff that I just left and I'm trying to avoid. And so I don't want to go to sleep because I know if I go to sleep, it's going to like be so quick. I have to wake up and do all those things again. And so I just sit there and I just see if I can hold on to like a little bit more of that time. And I know I'm going to be tired when I wake up in the morning, but I'll just drink more coffee. Like, I've got this me time and I'm going to take advantage of it. By gosh. Rest is a word that I think sometimes throws us off. When we talk about Sabbath, resting in God, I don't know that that's the same thing as the rest that I think of in me time. For me, the difference is not so much rest, but I think when I'm experiencing Sabbath, more than just rest, I'm experiencing something that's restorative. That's restorative, that creates wholeness, that brings life, that brings order into my life, that makes me feel like I can breathe again. It's a life-giving sort of feeling. We would call that restorative. But me time is rarely restorative. In fact, it's kind of like a Twinkie. You eat a Twinkie, it feels like it's filling to you, like you got what you needed, but at the end of the day, you're still hungry and you're not that healthy. Like, it just kind of was like fake filling, right? It made you think you were full, but you weren't really. And me time, I think, like has that same sort of capacity. I was searching for an antonym, right, for restorative, and I couldn't find one that fit. So I'm going to make up a word: destorative. Me time is destorative. It actually like strips away some of those things. It's me trying to ignore or numb or dull out or not pay attention to all the stuff that I feel like I came into that moment carrying, but it doesn't actually bring me life. It just puts me back out into the world the next day to start pushing things back up again with less energy and more coffee, just trying to make it through the next day. A few weeks ago, I hinted at a story. We talked about it a little bit. It's the story of Mary and Martha. I'm going to read the version from Luke chapter 10. Verse 38 is where it starts. It says, "Now they went on their way, and he, Jesus, entered into a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. And she had a sister, presumably visiting because Jesus was there or that lived with her. She had a sister named Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to what he was saying." So Jesus is teaching and coaching. It's just maybe just hanging out, is resting in the house. And there Mary is resting with him. But that's not what Martha was doing. It says, "But Martha was distracted by her many tasks. So she came to him and she asked, 'Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? I deserve a break,'" right? "Tell her to help me out," she says. But Jesus answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things, but there is only need of one thing, and Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her." Now, there's a lot we could unpack from that particular passage of Scripture, but I found this Scripture particularly meaningful in the last few weeks and months, honestly, for myself in my own personal devotional life, because the phrase that gets used first, just kind of by the narrator, Luke, to tell what the condition, what Martha's state of being was. And the word that he used, the phrase sort of has this idea that she's being overburdened and worried, distracted and anxious. Like a rudimentary translation of the word would be like she's drawn away from sticking around, from like hanging around. She's drawn away. She's consistently being pulled away from resting there, from sitting with, from hanging out with, from spending time with Jesus. Jesus later refers to that as worry or anxiety. It's the same words that he uses when he's talking about the birds of the air. They don't toil or spin, and the grass and the flowers, they're not anxious about whether God will provide for them. Like they have what they have. God provides for them. And he says to his followers, you shouldn't be anxious either. It's the same word that he uses to talk about her state of being. Like I can totally relate to Martha here in this moment. She's just like in the kitchen. She's setting the table. She's just pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And she goes to Jesus and she says, "Make Mary get up and push with me so I don't have to push alone." And Jesus says, "Why don't you come sit with us and let me pull you back?" Right? The work that she was doing was good work. It was important work. But even as she was doing this work, it's like it was just burning her up and burning her out. And she couldn't shut it down long enough to just go chill with Jesus, right? To just go and hang out. And if I'm real honest with myself, this is exactly what my me time is all about, right? I feel overburdened and worried and anxious and distracted, all for great reasons, right? But when I get a moment to myself, I just want to kind of be carried away from sticking around. I don't want to think about anything. I don't want to do anything. I just want to sit, right? I would do anything in my me time to dull the spin for a bit, to disassociate from the stress, to kind of compartmentalize it out. But that is not the same thing as sitting and resting with Jesus. It's not the same thing as Sabbath. I had a mentor who shared an experience in his life. He was also a pastor. He said that he had been talking to a mentor of his, and his mentor told him, "Tonight when you go home, here's the prayer I want you to pray. It's going to help you with all the things you got on your plate." And he was like, "Oh God, okay, tell me." And his mentor said, "I want you to go home tonight, and when you lay your head down on the pillow to pray, Just say to God, say these words: God, I have run the world all day, and I am tired, and I have done it for you. But I'm going to go to sleep for a little bit now, and I would just like to ask you, if you could just run the world for a little bit while I rest. I'll take it back from you in the morning. I'll make it all happen. I'll keep the world spinning. But if you could just give me a break, I'd really appreciate it. Lesson learned, right? We're not the ones who keep the world spinning. God does. All the anxiety, all the worry, all the things that distract us, all the things that pull us away from sticking around, they're good things. Work is good. Work is not the enemy. It's not the problem. It's just that we are invited to work from rest. We're invited to swing into all the things that God calls us to do from a place of being drawn into the presence of God, right? There's lots of ways to do Sabbath well. I don't pretend to be able to explain to all of us who are, participating in this moment together exactly what it looks like for you. I do remember one time I tried to do some Sabbath work by planting a garden. Chamos and I planted a garden together pre-kid. I grew literally one okra, like just a okra, which does not make a meal, to be fair. But I can remember like planting all the plants and getting the soil ready and building the beds and watering it, making sure everything was in its proper place. And then I went out the next day to like check on everything. There's like, there were no tomatoes. There was no squash. There was no okra. There was no nothing. There was nothing I could do to make those plants grow any faster. I just had to trust that while I did my work of tending and caring for the plants, that God was going to provide the growth. And as frustrating as that was for someone like me who wants it to happen and wants it to happen yesterday, it was actually really quite restorative for my soul. And I do not like that kind of work. I'm not a good gardener, so clearly. So I don't know what it would look like for you, but here's some questions I'd like to leave you with today for you to ask. What do you do that is actually restorative in your life? For Jesus, Sabbath was always restorative. In fact, Jesus would heal people on the Sabbath, and the religious leaders, they hated him for it. They said you should do no work on the Sabbath, but Jesus said that the Sabbath day is a day of salvation for God's people. And so Jesus was regularly healing people, right? Using that same word for salvation, loosing them from the things that bound them up. Sabbath is intended to unbind us from the things that burden us so that we can be free and whole and restored. What in your life gives you that sense and that feeling of restorative? What is life-giving to you? What are you doing when you feel like you're being restored? Who's there? Who's with you? How does it feel in your body? Like, what are those things? Or maybe we could ask the inverse of that question. What do you do in your life that's destorative, right? What's the opposite of those things? Let's stop that and try to make sure that we have a regular rhythm and pattern of doing things that bring us life. If that's a tough question for you to answer, you kind of trying to search it out. Maybe here's another way of getting to the same thing. Who in your life, when you see how they're living, their life seems to be in rhythm between rest and work. They're working from their rest. They seem to be pulled back into the heart of God so that they can work effortlessly. Like, who are those people in your life? What are they doing? Like, what's their Sabbath practice? Like, what gives them life? What restores their soul? Could you ask them? Could you ask them? We're going to put me time in its place today. But here at the end of everything, I think all of us, maybe only me, but all of us, if we're not already doing it, we need a little Jesus in our me time box. Because God desires for us to have life, full life, good life, rich life, an abundant life. But that life is only found when we find ourselves drawn back into the presence of God so that we can work from rest. May that be true for you this week as you head out into the places that you live, work, and play. Amen.
In the morning when I rise to meet you, in the morning when I lift my eyes, you're the only one I wanna cling to. You're the first thought on my mind.
Let our voices rise, all creation cries, singing out an endless hallelujah.
creation cries, singing out an endless hallelujah. From this moment on, join with heaven's song, singing out an endless
Only a moment to live this life, like shooting stars burning up the night, till heaven's open and we arrive.
in your presence, Lord, in your presence, let our voices rise. All creation cries, singing out an endless hallelujah. From this moment on, join with heaven's song, singing out an endless hallelujah. There's nothing better, there's nothing better, there's nothing better than this right now. There's nothing better, there's nothing better, there's nothing better than this right now. Oh. In the evening when I lay my head down, in the evening when I close my eyes, you're still the only one I wanna cling to. You're the last thought on my mind.
Again, it's been great to be with you together today. I would remind you, we'd love to know you're here. If you want to text us, just text the word hello to the number that's at the bottom of your screen. We'd love to follow up with you, particularly if there are questions you have after today's worship, or if there's something we can do to help you take the next step in your life of faith, your journey. We'd love to be able to do that with you, to partner with you in that way. So don't hesitate to reach out. And again, if you'd like to join with us in mission and ministry here in Fuquay-Varina, you can go to our website, fvumc.org/give. We'd love your support. We'd love to partner with you in ministry in all sorts of different ways. We have plenty of other worshiping opportunities live on Sunday morning, as well as throughout the week. And so don't forget to hop over to our website, fvumc.org, to check out all those opportunities. We'd love to get a chance to meet you should the time come. And until then, it's been great to worship together with you today.